You want to know when I learned that good things come to those who wait? I learned it over 3 agonizing years, while I was secretly collecting evidence against my husband, the man who was slowly, deliberately poisoning me. Not the quick, dramatic kind of poison, no. This was the insidious, slow burn that kept me constantly sick, utterly dependent, and completely isolated. It was the kind that made everyone, even my own mother, believe I was losing my mind, while he played the role of the devoted, suffering husband to perfection. It all started so subtly about a year into our marriage. Little things, a dull ache behind my eyes after dinner, stomach issues that would vanish then reappear, dizzy spells that hit me out of nowhere. I was constantly, bone-crushingly tired, no matter how much I slept. At first, I blamed stress, a lingering virus, anything but the truth. But it kept getting worse. Doctors shrugged, muttering about anxiety, IBS, or that dreaded phrase, "It's all in your head." Austin, my beautiful, successful, patient husband, would sit beside me in those appointments, holding my hand, his face a mask of concern. He'd tell them how worried he was, how I sometimes got confused, even paranoid, how my brain fog had forced him to take over all our finances. Everyone thought he was a saint. I'd been with Austin for 7 years, married for 4, and to the world, he was simply perfect. Friends would gush about how lucky I was to have him, how he'd cancel plans just to stay home with his sick wife. "What a saint," they'd whisper. "What a perfect husband." But something inside me screamed that it was wrong. When he traveled for work, I'd miraculously feel better. The headaches would fade, my stomach would settle. Then he'd come back, and within days, the dizziness, the weakness, the forgotten conversations, the lost hours, it all returned. I'd wake up groggy, no memory of falling asleep. My brain felt like it was constantly turning off. The first concrete suspicion hit me in the kitchen. I saw him, out of the corner of my eye, adding something to my tea, thinking I was still in the bathroom. I confronted him directly. Big mistake. He recorded the whole thing. Later, he played it for my mom, his parents, our friends Vita and Justin. You could hear the raw hysteria in my voice, the desperation as I accused my perfect husband of trying to hurt me. Austin, in contrast, was so calm, so reasonable, gently urging me to take my medication, reminding everyone the doctor had warned about paranoid episodes. Everyone looked at me with this chilling mix of pity and fear. Vita, my oldest friend, pulled me aside and whispered, "Maybe you should listen to Austin. Maybe you do need help." It broke my heart. After that, Austin started suggesting a psychiatrist, even residential treatment. He'd talk about my safety, all while stroking my hair as I doubled over from stomach pain, whispering that he'd always take care of me, no matter what. To others, he lamented how challenging things were becoming, but swore he'd uphold his vows, in sickness and in health. The more I deteriorated, the more everyone admired him. Poor Austin, with his sick wife. I knew then that if I spoke up again, he'd use it to have me committed. So I waited. I watched. I started secretly dumping coffee he made, avoided anything he prepared, claiming bland food suited my stomach better. I'd pretend to eat his meals, then flush them when he wasn't looking. I bought activated charcoal tablets, hiding them in a tampon box he'd never check, taking them in secret. Slowly, agonizingly, I started to get stronger, clearer. I had days where I could think straight for the first time in months. That's when I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt. But suspicion wasn't proof. I needed undeniable, concrete evidence. By the way, if you're still with me and finding this story as unbelievable as I did living it, please hit that subscribe button. More unimaginable stories are coming, and you won't want to miss them. I turned our guest room into my office, claiming I needed my own space because his snoring was making my disturbed sleep even worse. I started sleeping there most nights. He hated it, but couldn't openly object without seeming controlling. I saw the frustration, the calculations in his eyes. I set up a tiny hidden camera. For months, I collected footage. Him creeping in at night, checking if I was asleep, adding something to the water bottle by my bed. He'd stand there, sometimes, just watching me breathe. Once, I saw him testing my reflexes while I slept, pinching my arm. Another time, he held a mirror to my nose, as if checking if I was still breathing. The look on his face wasn't concern. It was pure disappointment. Once I had video, I sent hair samples to a lab, paying cash using Vita's address. I saved bits of food he made specially for me, labeling containers, hiding them in a cooler in my trunk. Every symptom, every meal, every memory lapse went into a journal I kept at Vita's house. I took daily photos of myself, tracking the terrifying physical changes, the weight loss, the yellowing skin, the brittle hair. This went on for almost a year, then another. I played the part of the weakening, forgetful, dependent wife. Sometimes, I deliberately knock things over or stumble over words in conversations when others were around. All the while, I was gathering evidence, and instead of therapy appointments, I was meeting with a lawyer. I discovered Austin had taken out extra life insurance on me. He'd been discussing my deteriorating mental state with my doctor, telling colleagues I had early-onset dementia. He'd researched arsenic poisoning, looked up untraceable toxins, even made jokes to friends about being a widower someday. The third year was the hardest. He started bringing his friend Otto, a pharmacist, around more often. They'd whisper, stopping whenever I entered the room. I'd catch chilling phrases like, build tolerance, and might need something stronger. Austin started talking about moving us somewhere quieter, a remote lake house belonging to his cousin, Annie. No one around for miles. He bought hiking equipment, fishing gear. He casually mentioned to Justin how deep the lake was, how easy it would be to disappear there. I knew my time was running out, but going to the police with partial evidence? It would be his word against mine, the word of a woman everyone believed was mentally ill. My own mother had started talking about guardianship. So, I did something desperate, something dangerous. I invited Vita over for dinner when Austin was cooking. I told her I needed her support, that things were getting worse, praying that after all these years, she still trusted me. That night, Austin made his special pasta, the one that always left me violently ill. When he went to answer the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode, I switched our plates. I ate his food. He ate the meal he'd prepared for me. We sat there, making small talk, Vita oblivious, Austin smiling that patient smile. Within an hour, he was disoriented, confused, dropping things, slurring his words. Vita watched in horror as Austin couldn't remember the day, couldn't stand properly. He kept asking why we were looking at him like that. I pretended concern, called poison control, described his symptoms. They told me to get him to a hospital immediately. Vita was already dialing 911, panic in her voice. That's when I put it all on the table, the journal, the video footage, the lab results. I watched Vita's face as she finally understood everything. The years of gaslighting, the poison, the slow, deliberate attempt to make me disappear while he played the devoted husband. By the time the ambulance arrived, Vita was holding my hand, so tight it hurt. She told the paramedics they needed to test him for poison, showed them the food samples. When they asked who prepared the meal, I pointed to Austin. There's more evidence, I said. So much more. The police came, too. They found the poison bottles in his desk drawer, more substances in his car. His computer searches? Inheritance laws, untraceable poisons, how to commit the perfect murder. Austin was arrested 21 days ago. They kept him in the hospital for 3 days to treat the poisoning, a complex mix of heavy metals and pharmaceutical compounds, a doctor confirmed, not something anyone could mix up accidentally. I keep thinking, that could have been me in that bed. How many times it almost was. The police interviewed me for hours, asking why I waited years instead of months. I tried to explain how Austin had systematically isolated me, convinced everyone I was mentally ill, controlled my finances, monitored my every move. The detective looked unconvinced, until Vita spoke up. She recounted how Austin would explain away my episodes, show edited videos of me acting crazy at dinner parties, how he'd even coached our friends on how to handle my accusations. When they searched our house, they found a hidden compartment in his office wall safe. Inside, vials labeled with dates and dosages, a journal detailing my symptoms after each treatment, pages of observations on which combinations caused longer sleep, which caused memory loss, which induced physical weakness. It was all so clinical, so detailed, so utterly planned. They found research on poisons that mimic natural diseases, printouts about untraceable toxins, a file on Annie's lake house, including underwater topography maps, and a waterproof bag with weights. Vita hasn't left my side since. She sleeps on my couch, says she doesn't trust me being alone. She keeps apologizing for not seeing it sooner, for believing him over me. I can't even be angry. He fooled everyone. He was that good. Austin's family showed up at the police station, screaming about false accusations. His mother, Sydney, insisted I was the unstable one, that I'd been hallucinating for years, that Austin was just trying to help me. She demanded to see the evidence, and when they refused, she started calling everyone we knew, claiming I'd poisoned Austin in some twisted revenge fantasy, that I was the dangerous one. The preliminary hearing was yesterday. Austin sat there in his orange jumpsuit, a ghost of the man I married. He wouldn't look at me, but I could feel his hatred. The prosecutor laid out the evidence: the videos, the journals, the lab tests, the poison containers. The judge denied bail, calling him a flight risk and a danger to the community. Austin's lawyer kept arguing about tainted evidence, my history of mental instability, how this was all a misunderstanding between a devoted husband and his paranoid wife. That's when they brought up Otto. The police found texts between him and Austin, discussing compounds and dosages. Otto claimed he thought they were talking about supplements, that he had no idea Austin was poisoning me. He said their conversations were just theoretical discussions between friends. But the prosecutors showed evidence. Otto had stolen medications from his pharmacy, helped Austin research obscure toxins, even ordered specialized chemicals using his professional credentials. Otto is out on bail, his pharmacy license suspended, his lawyer arguing he was manipulated by Austin. The terrifying thing is how believable his defense sounds, how easily someone could buy that he was just another victim of Austin's manipulation. Just like everyone thought I was crazy. My medical tests came back last week. Years of low-dose poisoning have damaged my kidneys. My liver function is compromised. I have neurological symptoms that might never fully resolve. The doctors said I'm lucky to be alive, that the amount of heavy metals in my system should have killed me. The only reason it didn't? The secret charcoal tablets. My refusal to eat his food. Something in me fought to survive, even when I didn't fully understand what I was fighting. Justin finally called yesterday. He was crying, apologizing for not believing me. Austin had convinced him I was having psychotic breaks, that my accusations were part of my illness. Justin admitted Austin had shown him edited versions of our arguments, spliced to make me look unhinged while Austin appeared calm and reasonable. He feels sick, thinking about all the times he encouraged me to listen to Austin and take my medication. Austin's lawyer contacted mine yesterday. Their defense: my mental health. They claim I've been suffering from delusional disorder for years, that Austin was administering prescribed medications because I refused to take them voluntarily. They've subpoenaed all my medical records, all my therapy notes. They're trying to paint me as the unstable one who set him up out of paranoid delusions. My lawyer says it's going to get ugly. They'll twist everything to make me look crazy. I had a panic attack in the grocery store this morning just looking at pasta sauce. Suddenly, I couldn't breathe. All those dinners, all those meals he prepared specially for me. Vita found me curled up in the aisle, hyperventilating. An employee asked if I needed an ambulance, and I just lost it, screaming that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't making it up. Sydney called my mother, convinced her I'd had a psychotic break, that Austin's arrest had pushed me over the edge. My own mother showed up with papers for an emergency psychiatric evaluation. She stood in my living room, telling me she just wants to help, that I need some time in a safe place. Vita had to physically block the door when two men from a psychiatric facility showed up, had to threaten to call the police before they left. My mother cried, saying she just wanted her daughter back, the one before all this poisoning nonsense started. The financial investigation is another nightmare. Austin had been moving money for years, small amounts into accounts I never knew existed. He'd secretly been selling off our investments, liquidating assets. The detective says it looks like he was planning to disappear, setting up an exit strategy long before I ever caught him. They found evidence he'd been researching countries without extradition treaties, had been in contact with someone about new identification documents. He had a go bag hidden in his office with cash. Yesterday, they found a second phone in Austin's car. Contacts I'd never seen. Messages to people I don't know discussing the plan, the timing, and making it look natural. Messages to Otto about increasing dosages and accelerating the timeline. Messages to Logan, a name I'd never heard before, about cleaning up loose ends and handling the Vita situation. The police are trying to locate this Logan person. I can't sleep without seeing Austin standing over my bed, watching me breathe. I can't eat without wondering if there's something in my food. Vita prepares all our meals now, but sometimes I still can't make myself swallow. I lost another 5 pounds this week. My therapist says it's PTSD, that my body is still in survival mode. Says it might be a long time before I feel safe again. Tomorrow we have a meeting with the prosecutor. They want me to walk through everything again, chronologically. They need to make sure their case is airtight, worried about the mental health angle Austin's team is pushing. Worried a jury might be swayed by the grieving husband narrative, the idea that he was just trying to help his troubled wife. They need me to be strong, consistent, believable. But how do you convince strangers of something that sounds so unbelievable? How do you prove you're not crazy when someone spent years making everyone think you are? Austin's parents have filed a petition for guardianship over him, claiming he's been unduly influenced by me, that I've been mentally abusing and manipulating him. They're saying he needs protection from me, even while he's in jail. The absolute irony of it would be laughable if it wasn't so terrifying. They've hired a psychiatrist prepared to testify that Austin exhibits signs of coercive control victimhood, that he may have been acting under duress, under my control. The complete inversion of reality is staggering. The police still haven't located Otto. He missed his check-in with his probation officer. His apartment was cleaned out. His car found abandoned at a bus station. The detective called this morning saying they're expanding the search. He's considered a fugitive. They told me to be careful. Stay with someone. Report anything suspicious. As if I haven't been doing that for years already. As if my entire existence hasn't become an exercise in hypervigilance. I think about what would have happened if I hadn't waited. If I'd gone to the police earlier with partial evidence, if I tried to run without proof. Austin would have found me. He would have convinced everyone I was having a breakdown had me committed. Or worse, he would have taken me to that lake house, to those deep, dark waters, to that weighted waterproof bag. It's been almost 3 months since my last update. So much has happened. Austin's trial finally began last week. His lawyer keeps referring to my history of mental instability and paranoid tendencies, portraying Austin as this devoted husband, pushed to the breaking point by his wife's deteriorating condition. But then the prosecutor showed the videos I recorded. Austin, standing over me while I slept, testing if I would wake up, adding substances to my food, my drinks, my medications. The entire courtroom went silent, watching him methodically contaminate my water bottle, then stand there, waiting. That look on his face wasn't concern. It was something cold, calculating. His lawyer tried to argue the videos were taken out of context, that Austin was checking my breathing because he was worried, that he was adding prescribed medications because I refused to take them. It's terrifying how plausible he made it sound. They found Otto 2 weeks ago, hiding at Annie's lake house. The very place Austin had planned to take me. The same place with the deep water and no witnesses. Otto broke down during questioning. He admitted everything. How he'd been supplying Austin with pharmaceuticals, how they'd researched toxins together, calculated dosages that would cause symptoms without killing me immediately, how Austin had talked about accelerating the timeline, about how it needed to look natural when it finally happened. Otto's testimony is devastating, but his lawyer is already working on a plea deal, claiming he was manipulated, coerced, and afraid of Austin himself. Vita testified yesterday. She described how Austin would show everyone videos of me, acting crazy, how he'd coach our friends on how to handle my episodes, how he'd tell stories about things I'd supposedly done or said that I had no memory of. She broke down crying when describing the night of the dinner, seeing Austin disoriented from his own poison, finally realizing everything I'd been saying for years was true. The defense tried to paint her as my accomplice, suggested we'd conspired to frame Austin, tried to make it seem like we'd always been lovers, that this was some elaborate revenge plot. Vita held firm, but I could see how much it cost her. The medical experts testified about the substances found in my system, the damage to my organs, the neurological effects that might be permanent. They explained how the poisoning was deliberate, methodical, designed to mimic natural disease progression. Austin's lawyer kept interrupting, kept trying to suggest alternative explanations, kept asking if my symptoms could be psychosomatic, manifestations of mental illness rather than poisoning. One doctor finally snapped, "Heavy metals don't appear in your bloodstream because of anxiety." The jury seemed to respond to that, but who knows what they're really thinking. Sydney approached me in the courthouse bathroom yesterday, cornered me when I was alone, told me she knows what I did to her son, knows I'm the sick one. Said Austin told her everything about my condition, how I would hide my medications, how I would hurt myself and blame him. She was so convinced, so absolutely certain of my guilt. The scariest part was looking in her eyes and seeing Austin there. The same calm certainty, the same absolute conviction in their own reality. I realized then where he learned it, how deep this goes in his family, how he was raised by someone who could rewrite truth just as easily as he could. Justin testified today. He admitted Austin had shown him edited videos of me, convinced him I was having mental breaks. He described conversations where Austin would express concern about my paranoid accusations months before I ever suspected anything. How Austin had been laying groundwork, creating witnesses to my supposed instability long before I started getting sick. The defense tried to discredit him, suggested he was changing his story out of guilt for not believing me sooner, tried to make it seem like he was overcorrecting, that his testimony was unreliable. The financial investigator presented evidence of Austin's planning, the hidden accounts, the liquidated assets, the research on countries without extradition treaties, the go bag with cash and fake identification. The defense tried to spin it as Austin preparing emergency resources in case my condition worsened, suggested he was planning to take me somewhere for specialized treatment, that the cash was because he didn't trust banks after some fraud incident years ago. Again, the explanations sound just plausible enough to create doubt, just reasonable enough to make you question everything you know. They finally located Logan. He was Austin's college roommate, someone I'd never met or even heard mentioned. Logan admitted Austin had approached him about handling a situation with Vita if she became suspicious. Said Austin had offered him money to scare her off if she started asking too many questions. Logan claims he never intended to go through with it, that he was just stringing Austin along. The defense immediately moved to have his testimony excluded, claiming it was hearsay, irrelevant, prejudicial. The judge allowed it, but instructed the jury to consider it in context, whatever that means. My mother still won't speak to me, still believes I'm having some kind of breakdown. Sydney got to her so completely, convinced her that I need help, not justice, that Austin was trying to save me from myself. Vita tried to talk to her, show her the evidence, but my mother just shuts down. Says she can't bear to see what I've become. Says she's praying for me to find my way back to reality. It's like losing her all over again. Like Austin is still taking pieces of my life away, even from behind bars. The defense brought in their psychiatric expert yesterday. He never examined me, never even met me, but still testified for hours about how my symptoms align with delusional disorder, how people with this condition can construct elaborate conspiracy theories, misinterpret innocent actions as malicious, even manipulate others into believing their delusions. Watching this man, who's never spoken a word to me, confidently describe my supposed mental illness to the jury was surreal. It felt like being erased in real time, like my reality was being overwritten right in front of me. Our side brought in experts, too. Psychiatrists who explained how gaslighting works, how abusers isolate their victims, undermine their perception of reality, create doubt in their own minds. They explained how Austin's actions followed the classic pattern of psychological abuse. Vida and I still live together, both too afraid to be alone. She's still the only one who truly understands what happened. The only one who saw it with her own eyes, who can confirm I'm not crazy, that it all really happened. Without her, I don't know if I could have survived this. Don't know if I would have had the strength to sit in that courtroom day after day, facing Austin, facing his family, facing all the people who still think I'm making this up. The jury starts deliberation tomorrow. My lawyer says the evidence is strong, but warns me not to get my hopes up. Says cases like this can be unpredictable. Says Austin's performance as the concerned husband is convincing. Says we need to prepare for any outcome. The jury deliberated for 4 days. 4 days of sitting in that courthouse hallway, jumping every time a door opened. Vida was next to me the whole time, holding my hand so tight it hurt. My lawyer kept saying no news is good news, that quick verdicts usually favor the defense, that the longer they talked, the more likely they were actually examining the evidence. Still, by the 3rd day, I was convinced they didn't believe me. Convinced Austin's performance had worked. When they finally came back, I couldn't breathe. Then, one word: guilty. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, poisoning, psychological abuse, financial fraud.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Austin didn't react at first. Just sat there staring straight ahead like he hadn't heard. Then his lawyer whispered something, and his face changed. For just a second, the mask slipped, and I saw it. Pure rage. The real Austin, finally visible to everyone. The sentencing was yesterday, 15 years without possibility of parole. The judge called it one of the most calculated, cruel cases of domestic abuse she'd ever seen. Said the methodical nature of the poisoning, the psychological manipulation, the financial planning, all pointed to someone who was a continuing danger to society. Austin finally spoke, claimed he still loved me, that he was only trying to help, that someday I'd understand everything he did was for my own good. The judge cut him off, told him to save his manipulations for his prison therapist. Sydney had to be removed from the courtroom, screaming that I'd ruined her son's life, that I'd manipulated everyone, that someday they'd all see the truth. Security had to physically escort her out as she lunged toward me, still screaming that I was the sick one, the crazy one. Even with all the evidence, all the testimony, she still can't accept what her son did. Still can't see him as anything but the victim in all this. Otto got 8 years with possibility of parole after 3, part of his plea deal for testifying against Austin. Logan got probation for coming forward about the plans to intimidate Vida. Justin sent flowers to my apartment, but I haven't responded. I still don't know how to feel about everyone who didn't believe me, who thought I was imagining everything, who watched me deteriorating and sided with Austin anyway. My mother finally called last week. She didn't exactly apologize, but said she'd been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of remembering. Said there were signs she'd missed years ago. Things Austin would say or do that seemed off, but that she dismissed. Asked if we could talk sometime. I said maybe someday. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her again. Don't know if that relationship can be repaired. Vida says I should try, says family is important. But Vida doesn't understand that my mother chose Austin over me. Chose to believe I was crazy rather than believe I was being poisoned. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple forgiveness. We're moving next month. Vida and me. Somewhere new, somewhere without memories. She's become my family through all this. The one person who saw the truth when it was right in front of her. Who believed me when it mattered most. Who stood by me through the investigation, the trial, the endless questioning of my sanity. We're not running away. We're just starting over. They say good things come to those who wait. I waited 3 years to be free. 3 years to be believed. 3 years to reclaim my mind, my body, my truth. The waiting nearly killed me, but in the end, it saved my life. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to fight to be believed when everyone thought you were losing your mind? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.